Welcome to the Legends of Kansas podcast. I'm Brandon McAnderson, along Ring of Honor member and Super Bowl champion Chris Harris Jr. Kansas football just made a statement in its 41-10 victory over West Virginia. The amount of helmets getting popped off, the oohs and ahs coming from the crowd with every big hit. This is a defense that's fast, physical, and deep. The defense was excellent throughout. The offense found its footing late in the second quarter and never looked back. On today's show, we'll discuss LeSean Williams' breakout performance, how the defensive front continues to evolve. Chris will take us into the film room to catch you up on what we're doing in the front seven to make things hard for people. And we'll do a quarterly review of KU football as we wrap up the first month of the season. Kansas is 3-1, 1-0 in the league, and the vibe is high. Let's get it. Chris, welcome to the show, man. Tell me about your weekend. Catch us up on Chris Harris Elite. Catch us up on what do you got going on, man?
Yeah. Man, right now, man, just all our guys are playing, from Little League, from 8-year-old all the way up to NFL. And, everybody's out there doing pretty solid, man, and just keeping track of all the guys and seeing their success. Seeing the Little League kids' success, is amazing. And, got to see some good football this weekend. KU, they came out and dominated and started exactly how you want to start Big 12 play, right? Big game, Big 12 opener at home. You want to make a statement. I think they let everybody know that they're coming hard this year.
Absolutely. I love what they're doing on the ground, man. I love the way they were able to get that offensive going. And I love that you mentioned Little League football. I'm coaching my 10-year-old, man, and seeing the lights go on for young people playing the game. I love it so much. I love kids that want to go out there and play the game because the game meant so much to me. So I'm just having so much fun coaching Little League. So I could definitely relate to what you got going on with Chris Harris Elite, just training everyone Little League to pro. But let's get into this game. Let's start with LeSean Williams. He was a guy that I watched in camp that I really liked. Good top end speed, really good straight line runner. And, if you come from Iowa, a loaded box means nothing to you because Iowa ain't throwing the ball. They're going against 7-8 man box. He averaged 7 yards a carry, 6 yards a carry 2 seasons ago. So we knew he could get it done. Had a little bit of a health issue, but now back healthy. Man, did he ever get going. 18 carries, 129 yards and a touchdown, another catch for 39 yards and an additional touchdown. What did you like about what you saw from LeSean and what they have now with the reliable 1-2 combo with him and Highshaw, given Highshaw's health?
I mean, I tweeted, I'm like, where has he been at? Because he just came out explosive. Our run game has probably been lackluster all year. JD has been having to carry the load kind of in the run game, which I don't really like too much because of his injury history. He's taken a lot of hits early in the season already. So I'm good. So this is a good thing to get LeSean Williams going and get this run game clicking right now. And, to be able to have 200 yards rushing, that's always a good day. So you keep everybody fresh, you keep the defense fresh. You take time of possession, then that's when you can have a dominant score like they did. So LeSean Williams, man, congrats on a big game.
One of the things we talked about in our previous show, in the Crimson and Blue show, in the lead up was, when a team, likes to run pace and they're not getting first downs, they're not having success on first down, leads to a lot of quick 3-and-outs. But when you're Kansas, you've got to be able to run the football to take advantage of that. And they did. They were able to run the football. They were able to keep that offense from getting a rhythm, and they were playing into that strategy that you want to see. I think my favorite segment for LeSean in the game was in the second quarter. He just had a series where he was just playing with a lot of force, getting vertical up the seam. He had a pass pro pickup that was massive. I mean, you could hear the pads pop when he took it on. I love when I see a back step up and take on a blitz, because that tells you that they understand how they fit onto the team. Because when you have a running back that's caught up in the glory of the position, he's not going to do the dirty work. He's not going to want to do the hard things. LeSean Williams had no problem doing the hard things. Coming up, he had the lead block on JD's big draw play that led to the field goal right before halftime, and he had a big run right before that. I just thought that was a sequence where you really saw a winning player in LeSean Williams, and I think he's just getting started, Chris.
Yeah, he was very physical. I mean, I was excited to see him burst and, get that long run and see his long speed, and you can see that he has it. So I think he's going to have a big year for the rest of the season. This is exactly what they've been looking for. And like you said, you got to be able to block in this offense as a running back and in the NFL, the next level. to be a 3-down player, because you don't want to be that running back that has to come out on 3rd down. That's the money
Right.
man, right? So
Right.
if you can't block, you definitely won't be in on that, on 3rd down. So
Yeah.
it was good to see those guys do that. Still, passing game wasn't always there yet on the offensive
Yeah.
side. I still think we need to, get the receivers more involved, because you're going to need those guys as the season goes on. But, it was good to see the run game continue to, get better, because
Yeah.
that's something we've been down the first couple games.
Absolutely. Le'Shawn was awesome. And then you talked about it. That first quarter was not the cleanest first quarter you'd ever see. There was a lot of, JD had a couple misses on plays where he scrambled just too high. There was just
Yeah,
some continuity stuff, guys losing up front. And credit to West Virginia. West Virginia came into the game top 30 in a lot of categories on defense,
yeah,
specifically running the football. They make it hard to run the football. They made it hard in the first half for us to run the football. So that was a good Big 12 defense, and they
yeah,
showed up doing that. But Kansas just stayed steadfast, continued to chip away. In the passing game, there wasn't as many of the explosives. There wasn't as much of the continuity and downfield stuff. But what I liked about the passing game specifically was seeing E-Man and Manuel Henderson make tough catches. He had a
yeah,
really tough 3rd down catch. He had 6 catches for 38 yards, but he had a huge impact. That he was just
yeah.
where he was supposed to be and showing up. Just describe, it wasn't necessarily what you want in terms of long ball doing all the different things other than the Wentz touchdown, but there were some good things in the passing game. What did you like about some of the continuity things you
Yeah.
saw?
It's just JD just got to make the easy throws. He was short on a couple, and then like you said, he overthrew some outside the pocket, which that's going to happen,
Right.
right? But the throws in the pocket that we need you to make with clean blocking, you got to make those throws. And I just think he was just a tad bit off this
Hmm.
game. I think he would probably tell you that too.
Right.
But Henderson is definitely evolving. He's getting better and better. He's showing his speed. That was a great return. That's where his 100 yards, or I don't know how long it was, but
Yeah.
that's where his big gain came from. He probably had 100 yards all purpose. So
Right.
still able to get that. But we're gonna need the other guys. Wentz, we're gonna need all these guys to continue to get better, because I'm telling you, it's gonna be harder. It's gonna get harder and harder as the season goes. And you're gonna need a big play from one of those receivers in tight coverage.
You absolutely will. It was good to see Bryson Canty, the transfer from Columbia, was more involved. He's a guy, if you see him in person, you will really like him. Just a big, physical, athletic guy. He's just been banged up through camp, so he's not really gotten up to speed. The bye week helped him. You saw him get more reps this week. I think he's a guy, like you mentioned, as the defense gets tougher, he's a guy that can help you out in a big spot just because he's so experienced, big,
Yeah,
physical guy. I think he's got an NFL type pedigree. So we'll see how he factors in, but it was good to see him out on the field. Another part of trying to figure that out is this offense, is going to be facing, like you mentioned, a Big 12 group that, I checked the points per play stats for the country. There's like 8 Big 12 teams in the top 20. I mean, so this is, Arizona's one of them. Cincinnati, our next opponent, is one of them. West Virginia was one of them. We're actually one of them on defense, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But you're seeing that these these Big 12 defenses, though their counting stats aren't at the level of what you would see at a SEC or a Big 10 school. But that's because the Big 12 plays so many possessions. There's so many possessions in a Big 12 game where, the defense has to defend more and more. But you're seeing there's a lot of Big 12 teams that'll make you earn it and push you to the limit. Now, let's flip the field. Let's talk about this defense. But before we do, let's make a quick comment on special teams since you brought it up. You
yeah.
had E-Man. He had a 40-plus yard return and a touchdown. Tate Nagy
Okay.
had another 20-plus yard punt return. The punt operation was awesome. I think they had 4 punts inside the 20, 1 inside the 10, perfect on field goals. Field goal kicker hadn't missed in 2 years. So there's
Picker is the real deal. He's the one that I can see. He has a chance to get drafted. He keeps kicking like this. I mean, he's pretty consistent.
absolutely
It's going right down the pipe too.
right.
With this guy, he's the real deal.
Yeah, he was a big find, a big get for us in the transfer portal, as well as Ben Lappin, the Australian punter. And to be honest, Kansas punting wise hasn't been as consistent under Leipold. And I don't think it's a schematic thing. They just haven't had the performance they were looking for. I think Ben Lappin gives us that. He has punted the ball really well. There were situations in the first quarter where you would think West Virginia had gained a field position advantage, and they didn't, thanks to his punting and his ability to get the ball high in the air and push it down the field. And then, of course, E-Man was awesome. That guy's an
Yeah.
explosive player, a former 5-star running back, and you can really see it when he's on a kick return because that guy's got big
Yeah.
time top end speed, and it was well blocked. I mean, there wasn't a
Yeah.
lot for him to do on the touchdown, just juke a guy, and then with that type of speed, he's out of there, 23 miles per hour. He don't need much. So special teams was
Yeah.
awesome, and you talk about the hidden yardage. They consistently. You talked about E-Man having almost 100 yards himself on kick returns, at least over 150 yards almost with the 40-yard return. That doesn't even take into account the punts and the punt return. So just that hidden yardage was huge for
Interception.
Chris. Oh, the interception. Yeah,
Defense.
that Trey Lathan brought back. They
Yeah, that's
really
hitting
did a good
yardage.
job. Yes,
So
it is.
when you look at the stats, you won't think that Kansas dominated the game just because those hitting yardage.
Yeah.
When I looked at it, I was like, it doesn't really look like we, just killed them stat wise, but it's those hitting yardage, the special teams, the interception return that put them back in a great, offensive situation to score. Those little hidden things matter in those games, man. You can see it.
Yes.
Okay, now you see why you get beat by 30 points, right? It's because it could be those plays, but it was overall a great performance, a solid performance from everywhere. Everybody did a good job, and KU just got to continue to get better each week, and that's what I'm seeing with Coach Leipold. And I think they're identifying the weaknesses, and even the secondary played better, and they just got to keep it up.
Absolutely. Let's get over to that defense. I thought that the defense had a physical nature to them that was unique to what we've been seeing. I thought there was a physical, I mean, every play there was a punishment element to the way that this team was playing defense. They were flying around, the bodies were flying around. Just talk about what you liked about the defensive performance as a whole and what kind of things that our fan base can take away as we get deeper into Big 12 play.
Coach McDonald, he went to more of a 5-man front, more like a 3-5, but and the way our defense is set, it's not a 3-5, it's kind of like a 1-5, just Trey Lathan in the middle kind of, and then you have your nickel. You know what I mean? So it's like a 5-2-5. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so you have your 5D linemen, and really your two outside backers are outside linebackers, edge players, so they can drop out, they can blitz, they can do different things. They can play man on a tight end, right? So really it brings more confusion to the offense on how they got to block it, and we've seen that happen repeatedly in the game versus West Virginia. So I love the new adjustment that he did, and it was a good wrinkle to come in with.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and it really is relying on parts where they have the most depth. They can go about four deep at D tackle, and you look out there and they have a defensive alignment where they have 3 defensive tackles in one position, and you can do that because these guys can play maybe a 5, can maybe play a 4-eye, but also play a 3. And we're talking about positions on offensive line. So a 3 is outside hip of the guard, a 4-eye is eye up with the tackle. So just those different alignments. It's not that easy to do what they're doing. So it's not just a credit to DK McDonald and his ability to craft a scheme. It's also a credit to the players themselves and their ability to understand more than one position, to execute the ability and the athleticism needed to execute at more than one position. But I wanted to get into our coaching corner to a couple specific areas. One was the Trey Lathan sack. And I thought it was important because when first half, where it really felt like West Virginia, really their last opportunity to present a threat to Kansas was at the end of the second quarter, where they pushed the ball down the field. They ended up getting a field goal, but they were in a 3rd and short at the goal to go situation. And Marcus Calvin came in and got untouched by the guard, hits the quarterback, forces a quick throw and an incomplete, and we get him to settle a field goal. That play really stuck out to me. One, because Marcus Calvin is the 4th string defensive tackle. He's not even on the depth chart, which is just a credit to how good and how many players that they have. But 2, it broke my college brain, Chris. I am so used to, the center and the guard are working tandem back to the left. And what's happening is the right guard has Marcus Calvin on his outside eye, but he's so used to working in tandem with the center that his eyes are on the nose, which was Keenan Caldwell, and a backside linebacker. Just talk about the difficulty of that bear front, not just where they're positioned, but who is in the game. Because you're talking about 3 defensive tackles in a bear front, 2 edge players, and 1 linebacker. That's a complicated look.
So when we say in bear front, he's saying we have a 0, we have a D tackle over the center, and we have 2, which we call them 3 sacks, three techniques, so they can either be a DN or a D tackle, depending on what type of body type, right? That
Mhm.
body type has to be able to do a pass rush and be able to play the run, and that three technique, because they're going to be the guy that gets double teamed the most, right? So we started out coming out doing that having that 3-man front, and then those edge guys, they couldn't figure out which way it was coming, right? And on that pressure right there, he actually sent 5 right there. And when you do that, everybody has a one-on-one, and that guard he just blew the assignment, and we're about to show it right now, but you'll clearly see that that 5-man pressure, you don't really know where it's coming from, right? But you should always count on those front 3 guys to come. So it
Right.
really made no sense why the guard didn't know with a guy standing over him, right? As an old lineman, you should know that, but just adding this new wrinkle, that's NFL. That's what we do in the league. You never really see a lot of teams in the college do that as much. So I like what he's doing for sure. Bringing new looks, bringing NFL looks to college, confuse these old linemen and quarterbacks.
Yeah, because thinking about it from a running back perspective, like I mentioned earlier, and in my career, I can think about where we played Toledo in 2006. They were a 3-4 team, and you always had to figure out the fourth and fifth rusher. And offensive linemen are so used to things, right? They're used to counting things a certain way. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that guard saw Keenan Caldwell win on that swim move, and he's so used to helping an eye in the backer or eye in a fourth rusher that he just lost it. He just stepped
Yeah.
away from a D tackle to do what he'd always instinctively done. And that's what you talk about the NFL angle being that this isn't a look that college offensive lines are seeing week to week. They're not in situations where they're blocking 5 one-on-ones, especially potentially 5 D linemen, which was what that look was. It's just not a common look, and it really troubled him. But like you said, it's a team thing, right? Keaton Caldwell wins on that swim move, triggers an instinct from that right guard. Now you got an unblocked player. And it's just a testament to how these looks can really muddy up what the offense wants to do. Let's get into one more. Third quarter, after the kickoff return touchdown, their first drive, they're trying to get something going. Second down, Trey Lathan says no. And it's a similar look. So talk us through this blitz look. Just talk us through that front and the personnel and
Yeah.
what you saw.
Now that they're he's kind of showing back, and then in the last second, you want to be able to show that A gap pressure, right? So if you watch Trey, he's sitting back, and then the last minute he shoots the gap. And when you have to be able to do it like that so that the O linemen don't squeeze down. Does that make sense? B
Yep.
Mac, for all the listeners, trying to teach y'all,
Yes.
trying to break down the game to y'all, right?
Yeah.
If Trey Lathan comes up and he's automatically showing over the center, the O lineman is going to squeeze down everything in. The quarterback knows he has to get the ball out fast, and it's going to be somebody off the edge if they can't get the correct numbers, right? But so it was a great blitz by McDonald, being able to get him in up the gap early and drop your outside linebackers, right? So that was a great call. You expect if I'm a DB, I'm sitting because I expect the ball to come out fast, and it's a change up, right? It's a different change up. It's not something that you want to live in, but when you can sneak it and throw it in there like they did with Trey, and Trey's fast and he can go make the play, you got to send him, right? I wish he can blitz a little bit more because he looked explosive as a blitzer, but we need him in coverage also. So he's kind
Right.
of guy that's you want to use him and pick his blitzes at the right time.
Absolutely, because he was able to get that pick later on in the game. Just ran underneath, read the quarterback's eyes, ran underneath, made a pick. Like you mentioned, just a guy that you feel confident in, right? You feel like he's in command of the defense. You feel like he's in command of what he's seeing, and if you can get him on a blitz, you should. And you saw DK use that as resourcefully as he could. Just
Yeah,
one of the things that stuck out to me was as an offensive player, as we prepared for defenses, a lot of it was based on personnel groupings. You know what I mean? You would get X percentage based on personnel grouping. So if I've got 3D tackles in there in my football brain, not seeing anything, I'm thinking this is a run defense. But he's
yeah,
able to use it as a pass rush defense on a third down. And then you look at this play we're referencing with the second and long big time play early in the second half. And now it's a normal formation, but it's the same setup as they saw before. And I like what that does to your eye discipline. I like how it makes you think. And even if they didn't do anything complex out of it, which they didn't, they dropped 2 off the edge. They only brought 4. It wasn't about the complexity of the look. It was about where are the people coming from, and they are really doing a good job early in the season of mixing up looks, putting different body types, different player types in there, and then running through it. So we talked about this, personally. We thought like DK might be a superstar based on his career and what he had done before he had gotten this opportunity. And you're starting to see he has a lot of experience at a lot of different places, and they're all coming to being incorporated in this defense right now, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much longer he'll probably be here or be in the college world, but I can see him going back to the NFL pretty fast, just the way that defense is playing good, they're playing aggressive, and then the intensity they're playing with. My only concern would be is the quarterback run game.
Yes.
Right? We got to be able to stop the quarterback run. West Virginia kind of found something at the end of the game right there where we didn't really have an answer for it. I don't know if we had our backups in. Probably did.
Some of them.
But that's one thing I would say concern. That's probably, something that you might see again later. Some more quarterback runs against KU, just because it looked kind of shaky at the end.
Absolutely, and it's a copycat league. And lo and behold, Cincinnati's coming up next week. Their quarterback Brendan Sorsby already has four rushing touchdowns, already has 200 plus yards rushing, and they're going to watch that film and be like, we already do XYZ, so we're just going to incorporate these into our game plan. So we'll talk about that. We'll get that comment from you as we get ready for the Crimson and Blue show coming up next week as we prepare for Cincinnati. That's a great point. There are going to be running quarterbacks in this league, and they're going to have to be prepared for stopping the quarterback run game because it's a hat on a hat advantage, and it gets the numbers back in their favor. So you got to play discipline when you're facing running quarterbacks, and they didn't do so well late in the game against West Virginia.
Right.
So let's get down to this quarterly review. One of the things we wanted to do, we're a quarter through the season. I wanted to just look at some numbers compared to last season, see where we were, see what we're looking like and what we're looking at. One of the numbers that pops out right away. Now, last year's first 4 games were Lindenwood, Illinois, UNLV, and West Virginia. So good teams, right? West Virginia won 8 plus games. UNLV won 8 plus games. So these were good teams. Illinois also won 8 plus games. So it's a little different, but we were in all of those games. And what's interesting about it is when you look at the stats, you come away thinking what you thought when you watched the game then is, how did we lose this game? Because we were good last year. We're even better this year, Chris. So what I did was I went to some numbers for our defense just to look at a general idea of what we were. So let's start with the top 3 running backs Kansas has faced this year in the backfield. Starts with Ahmad Hardy. Not only is he the best running back they faced, the Missouri running back, he's probably the best running back in the country. I mean, week after week, this guy has been unstoppable and did it again against South Carolina. One of the things to look at is this guy is at 7.6 yards per carry on the season. He had 4.5 yards per carry against Kansas. 25 carries for 112 yards. That's work. So, I mean, they made him work to get those yards. And
he busted at the end.
He did. And I do believe this is one of the best guys in the country. We did really well against him. Bison Donaldson, running back for Fresno State, averaged 6 yards per carry last year. He's averaging 5 yards per carry this year. He averaged 3 yards a carry against Kansas. Trayshawn Luke, another big-time running back for Fresno State, 5.7 yards per carry on the season against Kansas, 1.6 yards per carry. So this guy, it could not get going against this defense. They were able to get those stops. How about defense at home? Yards per play on defense at home is 4 yards per play. That's 22nd in the nation, tied with Georgia. Last season, we were 6.1 yards per play. We were 5 yards per play through the first quarter of the season. So this defense has improved by almost an entire yard per play against another tough slate of defense. Combine that with the physicality. What do these numbers tell you about how Kansas projects for the rest of the Big 12 season?
I mean, they're when you just look at them, they look way bigger. More physical up front. Being able to match some of these out of conference teams and SEC teams, and so that's one thing that I can see that's a big difference. Also, linebackers, Trey Lathan being able to fill the holes, being able to run. You can't outrun this guy. I mean, I think this guy has a chance to go to the league.
Absolutely,
3 down linebacker. Guy can cover too. So those guys make a lot of money in the NFL if you can do that.
Absolutely.
And they need them. Right, they need those guys. Him just right there. He been a major upgrade, major impact player, along with the big boys up front being physical. and being able to just look in there, just putting the off-season work in,
Yeah.
right? They just look bigger, stronger, and that's why we're coming out dominant in the run game.
Yeah, I just love the way they defended. The Missouri, they had some stuff at the end that they probably want back, especially on those big runs. But this team's been competitive against the run from jump. And,
Yeah.
like you mentioned about Trey Lathan having an NFL future, one of the things that's always shocked me about him is when you get close to him, this guy's 6'3". This guy isn't 6'1". He isn't 6 feet. He's 6'3". He's 230 pounds. And man, can he run and
It's a big
tackle.
boy.
Oh, yes. This
Yeah,
guy is a real player. So I like that
yeah,
NFL projection. I like that. I think that could be a guy that could really do this. So let's get down to some more defensive stats. So yards per completion. So last year we had the two senior corners, and those guys were as good as you could expect. So what they were really good at, it was really hard to complete a pass. So they were very good at completion percentage. I think we were number 2 in the Big 12 through completion percentage this time of year. We are not as good at completion percentage this year, but we are better at limiting the big play. Yards per
yeah.
completion last year through 4 games was 12 and a half yards per completion. It's now down to 10.1 yards per completion. So talk about that trio at cornerback and safety, how they've been able to limit the big plays and how that pressure package has played into that.
Yeah, definitely. That pressure package has helped. Playing a lot of man with Coach McDonald, and these guys have this game. We played a lot of cover 4, to kind of stop these guys and kind of passing up the routes. They're kind of playing like a bend don't break. We're not as aggressive as Kobe and Melo were because they would jump routes, but
Right.
like you said, they might have got beaten a little bit more, might have gave up a little bit more explosive. I got to look at. You said it was better this year, right?
Yeah, it was 12 and a half yards per completion last year. It's down to 10.1 this year.
Yeah, so
It's
it's
a really
better
good
this
number.
year,
Yeah.
right? I'm not really seeing the ball go over their heads too
Mhm.
much, and as long as they can continue to do that and be great on third down, right? I think Kansas defense came out and made them punt 6 straight times.
Right.
Right, so the that's on third down. That's D-line secondary, right? Putting that together. So, they're getting better, and they're going to start to get to where they get comfortable to make those big time interceptions. But he had a big pick. I think we had a big pick.
Yeah.
And every game they are making one big play.
Yes.
If you really think about it, it might not be a couple, a lot in the secondary, but they're making one.
Yeah.
Right, one big play each game. So as long as they can continue to do that, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of the physicality came from that safety group. I mean, those guys
Yeah,
were they were coming up in them alleys and making people pay. And that's what you want, right? You want to be
yeah,
able to, like you said, play cover 4 and keep it in front of you. But when you come down, bring something with you. And as you
right.
saw, there were some guys bringing some thunder. There were some guys really hitting, and that's what I like. So let's move on to some other numbers. Last year, 9 sacks through the first 4 games. This year, up to 12. But this is the big one. And this is what you talked about with
Yeah,
linebackers: Bengali Kamara, John Kamara, Trey Lathan, these guys, Jason Gilliam, all these different players that
yeah,
they're playing in here. This team went from 22 tackles for loss a year ago through the first 4 games to 36. I mean, that is 9 tackles for loss a game, Chris.
yeah.
How much easier does that make your job as a defensive back? And like, what do you think have been the elements? Obviously, it's been improved play. It's been linebacker play. But like, give me that thing that you've liked that said, yeah, I see that. I see 9 tackles for loss a game from this group. This is this kind of aggression.
Just the being able to create the scheme with Coach McDonald.
Mhm.
A lot of confusion TFLs. That you've seen where we've came free. It's
Yeah.
it's, it's, it's been like that. So you add that in along with the guys just making plays, and
Right.
that's huge. Coaches and players working hand in hand, and that's something I can see has been very very noticeable. And like
Yeah.
like I said before, the physicality, the linebackers can all run. We got a lot more beef up front. And
Yes.
when you do that, you can make more plays in the backfield. So that's what I'm seeing. The linebackers being able to run free. Not the O line is not climbing to him a lot,
Right.
and he's blowing past them. These guys are tough to block at, and shoot, man, that's what you see. 10 more TFLs.
That's beautiful. And then interceptions are the same, 3 interceptions, which is a good number compared to last year and the players that we had. fumbles are up to 3. So 6 turnovers as opposed to 4. And then the team is for points per play. So a better scoring defense, they are at 0.262 points per play, which is 24th nationally. So that tells me that if you're going to score on this defense, you're going to earn it. And that's really what you want. You talked about bend but don't break, but having the aggression to counterbalance that, right? Being able to force 36 tackles for loss, being able to force 9 sacks, being able to force 6 turnovers. That's the kind of supplement that you need when you want to bend but don't break. But I love how uniquely they are getting into those looks, what the
Yeah.
formations are, what the body types are. I think it's been super fun to watch DK craft this defense. And the biggest quarterly review is on the scoreboard, is on the wins and losses, right? 4
Yeah.
games in last year, this team was 1-3. 4 games in this year, this team is 3-1. And we might have buried the lead a little bit. Offense had 10 giveaways last year and only 3 this year. You give teams 7 extra possessions, it's going to be harder to win games. And that's just is what it is. But we watched that team last year. It wasn't just the offensive turnovers. There were opportunities for the defense to get turnovers against UNLV, to get turnovers against Illinois, and they just couldn't execute. Now
Or
you're
we let
seeing
some
them
games,
execute.
or
Oh
they
yeah,
blew some games on defense.
yeah.
Right. So that's the major thing, right? We want to. So at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses, and we see this team definitely improve in that field. We know that the Missouri game, we should have won that game.
Yes.
Right. So there was key things that we went through. We watched over that they could have easily changed the game.
Yes.
Right. So we know that this team is much improved. They should be one of the favorites. Them, Arizona State, Texas Tech. I don't know.
Iowa State will be in there.
They should be in. KU should be in the Big 12 championship this year. If we can stay on this same improvement, continue to get better each week, keep coaching like they're coaching each week, having a good, solid plan, then I predict us to be in the Big 12 championship for sure.
I completely agree with you. I think there's a group. I think after this week, you can see there's a clear group of upper echelon Big 12 teams. Kansas is one of them. They're in that group of 6 teams, of Tech, of TCU potentially, of Iowa State potentially, of UCF. They're undefeated. We have them in a couple weeks coming up on ESPN2. The opportunities are going to be there for this team to earn their way into a Big 12 championship. We're just getting started here at the Legends of Kansas podcast. That's Chris Harris. I'm Brandon McAnderson. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week.